Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a world more colourful than the Technicolor polyester of your grandma's couch. The 1970s, a time when disco ruled the dance floor and diet pills promised dream bodies and star-studded escapades. Forget Jane Fonda workouts and vegan chai lattes. Imagine popping mystery pills that turn perfectly pleasant housewives into jittery, sleep-deprived zombies, roaming the aisles in search of, well, anything but sanity. Before you get all cozy in your bed, do me a solid. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this surreal slice of history I serve up like a late-night snack. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Curiously, the perfect housewife demographic seems to be a global affair. Now dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soothing hum, and snuggle down comfortably, lest we revisit the horror of those plastic-covered sofas. Let's think for a second. Have you ever wondered how many people actually believed a little pill could solve their midnight snacking woes? Did they really think the perfect figure could come without an ounce of effort? How did 70s mums juggle cooking tuna noodle casserole while riding the diet pill wave? And now, congratulations. You've just woken up in the year 1975, where everyone is one prescription away from being the best version of themselves, whatever that means. Spoiler alert, it probably includes a side of paranoia and a snazzy headband. Welcome to the era of miracle pills, where the motto was less, you are what you eat, and more. You can eat whatever you want as long as you swallow a little pink tablet first. Picture it. Housewives across America, convinced that a $2 tablet could instantly rewind their waistlines while they munched on a second helping of scandalous casserole. You could practically hear the collective sigh of relief every time someone popped those capsules like they were Pez dispensers, and who wouldn't want to take a shortcut? Women were fiercely juggling everything from baking cookies for the school bake sale to wrangling wayward children who were definitely not incentivized by those dry, nutrientless snack bars. When dinner time rolled around, the conversations at the table were like a masterclass in diet myths. "Did you hear?" One mother would lean in conspiratorially, glancing at her daughter, who was attempting to shove down yet another plate of mashed potatoes. Mary from down the street started taking Slim quick and lost 15 pounds in just 2 weeks. If that's not incentive. Meanwhile, little Sally could only wonder if her mum would ever consider giving the broccoli a fair chance without the persuasive power of a miracle pill. Because heaven forbid anyone puts food on the table that doesn't promise slim waistlines and sultry disco dance moves. Soap operas weren't the only things on television capturing the housewife's attention. Late-night commercials featured glamorous women with airtime smiles talking about how one quick pill can change your life. And there it was, the promise of freedom from kale chips amidst a plate of fried chicken and biscuits. With a tiny flick of the remote, reality faded into the background, making way for a future where every whiff of your favourite comfort food didn't return tragic reminders of your dieting struggles. Fast forward to the supermarket aisles, where shoppers navigated the labyrinth of diet pills like warriors on a quest for the Holy Grail. Wearing oversized sunglasses, heads held high, every woman was armour-clad against unsolicited opinions. "No, I'm not here for the lettuce. I'm here for the jackpot." They scanned the shelves, hunting not for whole grains but for the ultimate pick-me-up. Each box glinted with the promise of skinny. "Just pop this miracle and swoosh into a size 6, they whispered, as if afraid that the word calories might appear and ruin the magic. Honestly, it was as if the cereal aisle transformed into a diet expo, where sugar-laden snacks became relics of a bygone era, replaced by shiny boxes labelled "Lose It Fast." But the diet pill phenomenon didn't just stop at the grocery store. It bled into daily life like an accidental spill of grape juice on a white carpet. Forget catfights over who made the best tuna casserole. Mums were now vulnerable to pill-induced rages surrounding dinner parties. Halfway through airing, their concerns over burnt lasagna, one might retort, Well, that's how you get trapped in a body you hate. Cue the eye rolls and whispers of, "She just doesn't understand." And just like that, dinner tables turned into battlegrounds, albeit silently, where diet choices became a new taboo. Then there were those infamous potluck dinners. Oh, the legendary status lives on. It was like a scene from a sitcom, as each dish was lovingly crafted from guilt-ridden recipes with the quintessential note, made with green light diet pills. You'd spot the casserole of horrors and wonder if diet management meant the need for emergency services, because one whiff was a quick route to cardiac explosions. The social status of moms quickly devolved into ratings on plates, requiring a diet pill to absorb both embarrassment and the calories that came with it. Women learned to share more than casserole recipes in those years. They shared cautionary tales. You know what happened to Linda? She took another diet pill and accidentally turned into a shopping cart. She said she lost so much weight, but where are her manners? That trend veered dangerously close to absurd parallels of Housewives, morphing into creatures of convenience, swaying back and forth between practical mix-ins and convenience capsules. At the end of that wild, beautifully chaotic decade, the legacy of the great diet pill boom only continued to crunch and crackle like a classic sitcom. The laughter turned to reflective sighs as women emerged from their fractious pills with historic battle scars. They crawled toward the modern era, wiser in their choices, still reflecting on the realities of beauty, cravings, and the pursuit of acceptance in a society hell-bent on the perfect image. A perfect concoction of medication, a reminder to always question those tantalizing promises. And while some may have finally swapped those pills for something more wholesome, others still wondered if a can of more margarita, less muffin top awaited. Let's talk breakfast, specifically the magic elixir caffeinated ladies still swear by. Only in the 70s could you find mums replacing their Folgers with Wake Up Slim Down, pills that somehow promised to be the perky kick in the pants they needed to tackle their daily routine. Spoiler alert, they weren't always perky in the end, just more jittery. Imagine rolling out of bed, fixing your hair in a Farrah Fawcett style that usually requires an industrial-sized can of hairspray, and instead of brewing coffee, you reach for a little magic capsule dedicated to making breakfast optional. Nutrition. That was an afterthought, much like the vegetables that died a sad death at the back of the fridge. Now, while some houses thrived on routine, these caffeine-dependent ladies had another ingredient stirring in their rituals: the diet pill. To the untrained eye, mornings looked remarkably normal, maybe a bit too cheerful for a Tuesday. We're talking elephants in a china shop levels of energy. You could find the neighbourhood mums lingering by the percolator, swapping tales of lost pounds as if they were winning lottery tickets. "I'm down 3 pounds this week. Thanks, Speedy Slims," one would exclaim, while the other nodded in agreement, fingers twitching toward the coffee pot as if to maintain the facade that breakfast was a real thing. But let's dig a little deeper, shall we? Picture it. These ads promising sleight-of-hand transformations sold their products using cheerful jingles that were borderline cult-like in their fervour. Who wouldn't want to trade in that sleepy, slow-motion version of themselves for someone more akin to a caffeinated squirrel ready to tackle the world? So, you pop a pill and suddenly feel like Wonder Woman. If Wonder Woman had spent her mornings running up walls and around furniture, trying to dodge the impeccably messy chaos of inviting toddlers and loose dogs in a cloud of sugar-sweet optimism. On the surface, you might think, well, this isn't so bad. But what you didn't see were the hidden side effects. Oh yes, the brave warriors of the morning kitchen often wrestled with a whirlwind of anxious thoughts and fleeting energy spikes that could make a trampoline look like a footstool. The whispers of "calm down, honey," echoed in homes paired with the frantic anticipation of dinner not burning while simultaneously trying to cook it. Who knew boiling spaghetti could be such an adrenaline-inducing thrill ride? Let's talk about meals around the dinner table. You know, those moments when biting into a slice of meatloaf is akin to the realization that your entire week has been dictated by a capsule of caffeine and disdain for leftovers. Mum, can you pass the soy sauce? Wait, does it have calories? Oh wait, wrong conversation here. While salad suddenly became a treasure hunt for the few leaves that resisted wilting, the looming pressure of "do I really need that?" created Hunger Games amongst the children and mums alike. And let's not dismiss the family dynamic. You could practically hear that ominous ticking clock, counting down the moments until someone asked, "Mum, what's with the pills?" Followed by a striking silence as if you just admitted to owning a pet tarantula. Navigating diet discussions with children was like stepping onto a tightrope join family life, where the stakes were higher than your attempts to hide all those cheesy snack wrappers. Honey, remember to jump high with joy when your little brother doesn't give you the side eye after you tell him that gulp of soda will ruin his chance at a bright future. Fast forward to school drop-offs, where these caffeine-cranking mamas piled into their station wagons, sporting coffee-stained sweaters and a pill-popping grin. Morning carpool had transformed into a collective therapy session, dipped in vague diet pill gossip. I mean, who knew that Miracle Slim would have you feeling like you just jumped on a roller coaster in the off-season? Overhearing whispers from the back seat that began with, "Have you tried?" and then quickly lost volume, one couldn't help but wonder if they were also sharing hair advice from Ms. Ginger down the block, or swapping user manuals for recovery pills from ancient but questionable cliques at high school. As another day took flight, mums filled their schedules, caffeinated and ready to fight off fat with a smirk and a quippy comeback. Maybe their hearts raced with excitement about their pills, but deep down, wasn't there a part that worried whether they could actually fit into those practically new bell-bottoms without looking like the pants belonged on a 1970s scarecrow? So as the clock struck 5 p.m. and dinner prep loomed, you had to wonder if the high-flying adventure of those wake-up slim-down pills would leave behind more than just an appetite for drama, but perhaps a backlog of funny stories about life highs and lows in this carb-free, pressure-cooked whirlwind we call the 70s. That's the era we jump into, a kaleidoscope of shocking turns and pulsating anxiety, where caffeine became a flag of honour. With the illusions of quick fixes and those ever-so-tempting speedy little pills, one thing became clear. Breakfast would forever be a fantastical, mixed-up adventure of toggling between diets, delight, and the very real consequences of living life just a pinch too fast. So we pop 'em, we guzzle, and we chuckle, because after all, there's always just enough coffee left over to toast the modern age. Ah, the workout craze. As disco lights twinkled figuratively and sometimes literally, everyone wanted that dancing queen vibe. But who needed a gym membership when you had a diet pill and a tube top? That's right. Just strut that polyester dance floor, because if you looked good, who was checking your heart rate anyway? In the cacophony of bell-bottoms and platform shoes, working out meant something entirely different. Gone were the days of graceful stretching in leotards filled with sincere desire. Instead, it was a full-on fashion statement designed to impress others whose pants were just as tight. Every fashionable housewife suddenly felt the urge to become a fitness guru, spurred on by the likes of Jane Fonda breaking records on VHS. Her iconic workout video was the pièce de résistance of the era, claiming that you could lift weights, while wearing sequins no less, and still make it home in time for a well-deserved plate of Jell-O salad. The beauty of fitness in the 70s was that it bordered dangerously on the ridiculous, often leading to visual catastrophes of neon leg warmers paired with thongs you could hardly see behind. Seriously, How many mothers found themselves in absurdly tight spandex and painstakingly choreographed moves that more resembled a fish out of water than an actual workout? But let's not forget the most crucial component of this new workout law, the diet pills. Enthusiastic housewives believed that with just a little magical assistance, they could conquer their treadmill battles with greater ease and fewer carbs. Diet pills became the ultimate workout accessory, just like those sweatbands and headbands that could get your hair up and off your sweaty forehead without a care in the world. Coffee in one hand and a sparkling Miracle Slim tablet in the other, these women took to the dance floor like warriors, their bodies adorned in questionable athletic fabrics that defied both gravity and common sense. Imagine stepping into your local aerobics class, where everything and nothing mattered simultaneously. Instructors sported tank tops that hugged like a summer romance, while behind them, a plethora of brightly coloured enthusiasts bounced to the throbbing beat of disco. The air buzzed with energy, thick with sweat and the scent of hairspray clinging to the air tighter than a bad catchy tune. Conversation skipped over the initial "did you take your pills today?" to "look how successfully I managed to turn that Zumba class into a showdown of my last meal." The workout wasn't just about breaking a sweat, it was a community bonding, a zenith of epiphany cloaked in polyester and synthetic excitement. Who really cared how many calories were burned when spiralling pastes of rebellious eye makeup could be the true victory? If your hair wasn't high enough to attract an aeronautical expert, what was the point of trying to low-key outlast your classmates during the hustle? Standing next to a woman with hair the size of a small dog and effortlessly gyrating hips was motivation enough. Many left class not because of fatigue, but from sheer envy at the level of glamour on display. But let's talk about the after-exercise ritual. Pop into the nearest diner for a slim apple pie, and voila, an effortless balancing act of diet pills, delusional body image, and complete nutritional confusion. These women may have danced like gods on weekend nights, but their next-day recovery processed meals. They were practically swimming in the remnants of those wicked food fads from yesteryear. Tuna salad that had more jarred mayonnaise than a seafarer's diet, and margarine, a revolutionary replacement that somehow never managed to escape a #sarcastic scrutiny. And so, in the kaleidoscopic world of the 1970s, the workout culture reflected a wider absurdity many didn't see coming. As they chased that elusive perfect body, women were also crafting masterpieces of shimmering dysfunction that would echo through time, a mix of fierce independence, misguided love for minimal effort, and of course that stunning combination of aesthetic priorities born from the heights of inexplicably unrelenting prescription choices. So, here's the kicker. The treadmill may have been all the rage, but those who truly wanted to shape their lives alongside their bodies found that the heaviest weight to lift was still seated right there in their minds. Instead of completing a workout, they were working out more than just their waists. They were engaging in a dramatic series of reflectively comedic life choices, finalizing sagas of stretchy fabric and diet pills that had as catchy a story as any top 40 song of the time. And oh, the irony was not lost on anyone when the fashion slowly turned against function, deciding instead to push beauty and banality onto the slick, shining surface of disco balls everywhere. Let's get real about the struggle of being a housewife in the 70s. You don't just dance your way through this perfectly curated suburban life without a hitch. Cue the chaos. A mysterious kid's shoe in the living room, a vapor trail of pills Sunday morning, and somehow, now there's a cat under the couch that you never planned for. Welcome to the domestic battleground, where the living room looks more like a war zone, and no one even knows how the mayonnaise jar got stuck to the kitchen counter. Did that happen when you were distracted by the latest episode of The Brady Bunch? Classic. Picture this. Armed with a spatula in one hand and a diet pill in the other, you bravely face the day. You'd think that after popping one of those colourful capsules that promised instant figure, you'd automatically turn into some kind of domestic goddess. Instead, you pretty much become the reluctant guardian of your little tornadoes, who, let's be honest, are dragging through the house like it's a scene from a low-budget disaster movie. And how about those meals? Sure, you might whip up a casserole that looks picture-perfect with an inch of melted cheese. If only it didn't double as concrete. The truth is, figuring out dinner becomes an Olympic sport, especially when half of the family is demanding spaghetti. The other half wants chicken nuggets, and you're aiming for gourmet, using the latest miracle ingredients, those handy little pills. Oh, how those perfectly planned Pinterest recipes seem to crumble under the pressure of real life, just like that cupcake you forgot in the oven. But wait, who's that lurking in the shadows? Good old Mr. Laundry Basket's always waiting, overflowing like a scene from the never-ending story. It's like the kids staged an unsanctioned sock rebellion, leaving you to lead the charge against this alien invasion of mismatched footwear and unidentifiable stains. Did you forget laundry day? Of course. Who had time when there were so many ways to look fabulous while sipping your diet soda on the couch? Let's not forget the infamous cleaning hours, as you dive headfirst into a whirlwind of dust bunnies and wayward crayons that seem to multiply. The clock is ticking. Enter the ever-looming spectre of judgment, typically known as company will show up at any moment. Cue panic. The vacuum cleaner turns into your best friend and your sworn enemy all at once. It's vibrating underfoot like a vibrating back massager, except it's actually just sitting there, plotting against your carpet. What about your trusty sidekick, that charming little box called the pill box? Yes, it feels homespun and sincere. But when it comes down to it, it really just gives you a false sense of control, as you meet your earnest intentions with another moment of, oh no, don't eat that. Remember the diet pill. And as the clock ticks closer to dinner, surprise, that's when the kids arrive home looking like a cross between a tornado's aftermath and a post-apocalyptic video game character. Now, if you thought that the chaos was contained to food preparation and laundry, hold on to your wooden spoons, because we have a new contender in the game who left the front door wide open, because nothing sends a suburban mother into a spiral quite like a catastrophe in the making. Suddenly Fido's making his escape while the kids shout about something important, like the ice cream truck that's now cruising down the street at a decidedly unsafe speed. Priorities, right? And speaking of priorities, housework is often treated like an uninvited guest. You don't want it round, but somehow it keeps crashing your party, bringing its friend guilt along for the ride. What about ladies' nights, social gatherings, and community gatherings filled with coffee and spritzers? Well, maybe you'll just stick to sitting in silence with that cat that somehow wiggled its way into your home, creating the perfect getaway from the chaos you once vowed to tidy up. And as that striped tabby curls up on your lap, you can't help but wonder, is it too late to put in my application for a housekeeper? So here's the bitter truth. Being a housewife in the 70s means that chaos is the spice of life, regardless of how many pills you might take. Instead of smooth sailing into the sunset with a perfectly mopped floor and self-sweetened lemonade, you're navigating a reality shipwrecked among soup-stained curtains and dog-hair tumbleweeds. While you might not have retained that perfect housewife persona you idealised, what you've gained is a hearty dose of laughter, and perhaps a cat that secretly runs your household now. After all, if there's one thing the 70s taught us, it's that perfection is a myth, and sometimes it takes dancing through the chaos to discover the beautiful mess underlying the suburban veneer. Enter a world where perfection wasn't just desired, it was mandatory. From baking brownies that looked like they belonged in a magazine to hosting parties that rivaled the latest Vogue layouts, If anyone dared to ask how they fit it all in, there was always a diet pill on hand to offer applause or a questionable endorsement. Picture the quintessential 1970s perfect housewife, a radiant smile plastered on her face, frosted hair teasing toward the heavens, and just enough eyeshadow to distract from the chaos whirling around her like a tornado of half-hearted laundry and unruly children. Let's not forget those perfectly stacked Tupperware containers in the kitchen that held delicious snacks you'd never actually eat. Why? Well, they contained tons of natural ingredients that ironically didn't resemble actual food. Forget the organic labels. In the world of perfect wives, only the illusion mattered. If someone asked how a polite, always coiffed lady managed to juggle it all while maintaining a trim silhouette, it was always promptly attributed to the latest pill. "Oh, you haven't tried Shape Up? Honey, that's like asking if you've ever tried living without oxygen." You can almost hear the sound of giddy laughter bouncing off the kitchen walls as the housewives exchange recipes, along with a dash of diet pill talk to ensure nobody dared touch the leftover desserts. As neighbourhood gossip spread like wildfire, the pressure to be the ideal hostess escalated. Did you see Jane's sequin tablecloth? In that chaotic world, if she didn't have a chart of her caloric intake beside her meticulously crumb-free dining table, was she even trying? Now imagine the party scene at one of these mythical gatherings. Plates wobble precariously as friends laugh and sip saccharine cocktails made from what can only be described as vaguely alcoholic soda. The table is set. It's a Pinterest board come to life. Guests arrive, each sporting their own array of ensemble aspirations, with the understanding that social appearances were just as fabricated as the food in front of them. Isn't this a delightful spread, Karen? Oh, those brownies! Just a little something I whipped up from a box, mainly carbs, sugar and icing. And the secret, a little pill to keep me from devouring the entire batch. But let's not forget the mention of the grand opportunity, where diet culture and prescriptions dance cheek to cheek. The modern mother found herself not only responsible for delicious dinners, but also committed to pint-sized personifications of perfection. Pearls and potlucks intertwined in a spiral of never-ending expectations. Have you seen Emily's Little League trophy? Adorable! And did you hear about the slim downs she started at the bakery? Goodness, if that's the price of charm. Of course, with each delightful recipe came a subtle pressure. Every brownie mix and casserole was an opportunity to casually drop comments about diet regimes. The whispers of, "Have you heard about Lisa's new miracle pill?" became less about culinary achievements and more about enabling swift retreats to the local pharmacy. Those little capsules promised lives as shiny as their packaging. This will get you through the holiday parties without ever needing to worry about those pesky calories. A holistic, happy, and healthy you awaits. As it turned out, the perception of the perfect wife became a dizzying pursuit, especially as life handed everyone ever-ripening stresses. Kids had an astonishing ability to create chaos wherever they roamed, right alongside the whirlwind of expectations. Could there really be snacks for a sleepover? Perfectly packaged like a magazine ad with smiles and vibrant colours? And what about the dreaded PTA meeting where everyone compared notes and rackets on which brand of diet pills to avoid? Over the years, it became increasingly clear that the push for perfection turned into a competitive sport of sorts. The true tragedy was that many a bright-eyed housewife, who once relished gardening and baking, gradually transformed into a weary warrior battling through workouts dictated by the latest fitness craze and multitasking obligations that might lead to exhaustion. Who had time for family game night when there were fresh cookies to be coolly scrutinised? In that kaleidoscopic memory of the 70s glam, perfection became as addictive as those little pink pills sent for smiling selfies, fueling not only fleeting moments of fleeting acceptability, but also energetic rabbit holes of looming self-doubt. Every perfect chef and hostess now wore a mask, cradling their diet decisions and embarrassing casserole recipes like they were secrets to preserving the facade. And so, the rise of the perfect wife took off as a dizzying dream that few lived up to, while plenty showcased the performance of it all. With laughs, parties, and miracle pills swirling through the air like confetti, the quest for perfection became a how-to guide in navigating a world that could never be real, but was purposefully crafted for perfection nonetheless. Let's say it together. Nothing ever truly says I love you, quite like a perfectly frosted cake, a little pill on the side, and an undisclosed number of family pictures waiting to decorate the walls of nostalgia. Now, isn't that a party worth attending? Who knew a neighbourhood potluck could turn into a back-alley exchange of diet secrets? Get ready for the undercover doctor's appointment no one was invited to. A circle of housewives sharing pill brands like they were the hottest designer clothes. Oh honey, did you hear? Trim and Mim really works. And Janet down the street is now a size 6. As Mrs. Henderson refilled her Jell-O salad with a little too much Cool Whip on top, the whispers floating around the room grew thicker than the frosting on the carrot cake. You could practically hear the sound of self-esteem deflating in the corner, right next to the 3-bean casserole nobody dared to touch. The meal kicked off with casserole dishes and mismatched salad bowls, an impressive array of culinary risks that seemed to prove no matter how many pills these women consumed, they might eternally remain hopelessly committed to all the wrong recipes. It was almost poetic in its ridiculousness, like Shakespeare if he had written specifically about awkward church gatherings. Here was a feast designed to be enjoyed together, but behind every spoonful of cheesy broccoli there lay a shared secret. Each woman had a mysterious pill bottle stashed in her handbag, featuring promises that sounded too good to be true. As the evening progressed, half-empty wine glasses turned into hushed tones and giggles, and the real talk began. It was like some sort of self-help group, only here the motto was less, I need help, and more, I need your diet pill recommendation stat. And then there's Diner Slim, one of the ladies piped up. They say it's like eating air, and you won't even realise you're starving. Nods of desperation echoed through the room as they shared tips on how to get through life, while looking fabulous on a steady diet of supplements, obsession, and maybe just a car tire's worth of self-denial. Who could have predicted that the potluck, originally intended for poorly executed recipes and half-hearted pleasantries, would become a stage for diet pill diplomacy? Every woman, I mean every one of them, from the stylishly frazzled to the overly polished, began to share stories, not merely about weight loss, but about their salvation through pharmaceutical happiness. It was like discussing the latest fashion trends, except instead of asking who wore it best, they'd chime in about the best dosage. I'm on 30 million of Fit Pop now, said Janice, and you won't believe how resilient I feel. It's like I can conquer the world while I take my kid to karate. Who knew that optimism could be calculated down to the milligram? But this triumphant atmosphere masked a darker undercurrent. As the night carried on, poolside darkness crept in. Tales of sleepless nights and jitters bubbled to the surface. Last week I thought I was having a heart attack, said Lorraine, her voice a mix of nervous giggles and near hysteria. Turns out it was just the zing-zap diet combo making me feel like the Energizer Bunny on acid. The room erupted into laughter, a fleeting relief laced with an uncomfortable truth. Sure, the pills carved their figures, but the price was an emotional roller coaster that may or may not have included discussions of health insurance and personal trainers. And amid the laughter was a shared realization. While casserole mixing and baking soda could keep their homes together, it was these pills that kept them on the edge of acceptable. Each woman was caught in a cycle of societal expectations, navigating the perilous waters of perfection like they were doing the cha-cha on a Keeping Up with the Joneses tightrope. Was it really acceptable to trade one addiction for another? The camaraderie over cuisine grew thick as they piled their plates high, but beneath the clattering of forks lay the anxiety, often unspoken, that was fueled by the pressure of should instead of could. Eventually the night wound down, the ladies dispersed, and the stories might have fluttered away with the echoes of laughter. Yet the weight of those shared moments hung, filled with unfiltered confessions and budding insecurity. Leaving the grand gathering wasn't just about saying goodbye. It was about the quest for the perfect figure, hinted at through dandelion salads and whispered secrets. And in that little community, the potluck, greasy casserole in hand, revealed itself as something more, a chaotic celebration of survival, where everyone was fighting to emerge victorious from their self-imposed beauty battles. Because it turned out to be perfect might just be the ultimate casserole nobody wanted for dinner. Forget farm to table. In the 70s, it was all about TV dinners and dietary supplements. These were the days when the microwave was new, exciting, and the bane of every tasteful home-cooked meal. Eating with the family? Just someone's well-worn couch, a plate of questionable, no more mystery ingredients, and a bid for a diet pill cure. Honey, dinner's ready meant just popping a plastic tray into a wheezing microwave and hoping that, when the ding finally happened, you didn't end up with more lukewarm mush than authentic meal. At this point, cuisine was defined as anything that could be prepared in 3 minutes or less, because clearly, who had time to actually cook? The pièce de résistance? Those aluminum trays that always seemed to have a mysterious leaky side. Somewhere between meatloaf and chicken pot pie, the labels on TV dinners started blurring. Is that chicken? Or did someone just take today's leftovers, coat them in sauce, and reshape what used to be organic? But alas, there was no time for questioning culinary integrity when you had a commercial featuring a perky housewife smiling while sifting through a stack of frozen meals like they were the gold nuggets of domesticity. The breakfast of champions, or rather the dinner credit of the average American household, boiled down to a steamy mess housed in a flimsy plastic shell. Imagine sitting around the coffee table. Oh wait, that can't be right. You had to make space for an awkwardly shaped beige couch that looked like it was birthed from someone's imagination of suburban paradise. A couch designed specifically for sinking deeply into with a fluffy polyester throw, and of course, the obligatory garden variety cat. And what's that aroma wafting through the living room? Oh yes, that patented blend of artificial flavours and preservatives designed to replicate comfort in a time when homemade was so last week. The only struggle was fending off the vertigo as you savoured your culinary experience as a family of 4, all ensuring that at least one person was on a diet, silently describing how delicious their healthier meal had become. Between mouthfuls of mystery meat, though, there was an unsung hero behind the scenes. Diet pills! As if TV dinners weren't enough, the sheer beauty of the 1970s nutritional landscape revealed itself in colour. Every colour, except for anything resembling a vegetable. Eating well was as simple as washing down a miracle weight loss tablet with a glass of calorie-flavoured soda. If I can survive this microwave meal, then surely the little green pill will put me right back on track for that summer pool party. The grim reality quickly surfaced after every mealtime, but the carefully orchestrated facade of household happiness turned into a game of how many pills can we take before dinner? Then came the all-important diet supplements. You had your pick. Some came in tiny packages filled with glittery promises and catchy ads proclaiming, "Lose weight fast." Who would say no to that? But let's be honest, did anyone truly think that a pill could wash away the lingering memory of last night's garlic bread? This tablet is my ticket to glory, you might have mused while carefully prying open another frozen lasagna. In reality, the 70s saw more pills consumed than meals cooked, leading to wildly unpredictable mealtime conversations revolving around last week's weight loss, a struggling TV show, and the latest shampoo infomercial. As your family watched TV through a whirlwind of commercial interruptions showcasing the latest diet fads, you might find yourself empathizing with your neighbour, Janice, the one who always looked on point while mysteriously holding court over casserole dishes like an undisturbed deity. Jealousy is a strong motivator. Entering her home for dinner meant confronting her expertly curated collection of TV dinners, skillfully paired with the most precise tracking of her daily vitamin intake. Yes, dear, it's exciting. I spent the last hour reorganising my Tupperware collection, and they're all really labelled. But even now, as you recline on that sagging couch, a voice in your head whispered, "Wait, should I be eating this?" Dish after dish would leave the same taste lingering. Was it satisfaction, or lingering guilt over yet another round of prepackaged meals? End of the day, guilt probably wasn't that much worse than the prospect of doing actual laundry. Spoiler alert, if only diet pills successfully eliminated the guilt as well. However, many continue to hope that lesson lost in lunchtime wisdom would earn its way back into the zeitgeist, preferably in the form of future iterations of comfort food that didn't come with an expiration date. So here you sat, spooning out what would likely be a notorious mystery meatloaf while contemplating the complexities of dining in the 1970s. A parallel showcase of the curious, the absorbed, and the inevitable. After all, what's more stunning than a world where aspiration danced cheek to cheek with reality, and you still buttoned your jeans with hope, despite knowing that there were far more exciting things happening outside of those living room walls? And in the background your microwave chimed again, signalling yet another victory over home-cooked cuisine. Would the charm of TV dinners ever fade? You can almost hear a ghostly echo from the kitchen. They never really go out of style. Welcome to the clubhouse of Housewives, or, as they were known, The Walking Dead, minus the zombie apocalypse logical explanations. Every one of them was convinced they were just one slimming magic potion away from happiness, while also dismissing that vodka as fortifying self-care. Picture the scene. A neighbourhood filled with pastel-coloured homes, manicured lawns, and just the right amount of white picket fencing for aesthetics. Inside, these women were armed with more diet plans than you could shake a measuring tape at, filled with half-read self-help books, a sprinkling of last week's gossip, and earnest discussions held over steaming cups of herbal tea, sugar-free of course. As they gathered for their weekly support group, the atmosphere was buzzing with excitement, mostly because Marge had discovered a new brand of pills that promised to melt away calories while you slept. "Ladies, the label says it's like a bedtime snack without the guilt," Marge declared triumphantly, as if she'd just announced she'd single-handedly solved the energy crisis. Meanwhile, in the corner, Sandy flicked through a magazine, only half listening. "It's not like anything really works," she mused, echoing the silent skepticism a few began to harbour as they jugged their mid-afternoon vodka mixers, desperately trying to keep spirits high through whatever dietary warfare they were waging. And then came the clubhouse gatherings, where imagination soared higher than the pills could promise. Picture the frantic discussions about the latest diet from the latest wellness guru, who probably spent more time exercising his thumbs on Twitter than actually hitting the gym. "You just have to believe in yourself," a friend would shout, clutching a bag of pretzels as though it were a magic talisman to summon willpower. "And if you really want an emotional snack, just remember, the calories don't count if you're standing up." Even the local grocery store transformed into an arena. Women swung through the aisles, armed with shopping lists filled with bizarre ingredients touted on the latest health fads. What is spirulina, one would ask, eyes wide in a mixture of curiosity and horror. I heard it helps balance your chakras or something, exclaimed another, as she debated whether to marry a tub of powdered green algae or stick with a reliable jar of mango chutney. They also exchanged hard-learned tips on sneaking diet pills into their daily lives without getting caught, like they were plotting a heist. Just make sure Johnny doesn't see you, and for goodness sake don't mention that pill you're taking to anyone, one friend said with mock seriousness. We wouldn't want the entire PTA to go on alert. Let's not forget the absolute thrill of the potluck dinners, where the stakes were high, and the competition over who could create the most Instagram-ready dish boiled over into a spicy, competitive edge. If anyone brings a veggie tray, I swear on my collection of cactus-shaped cocktail mugs that I'll burn their recipe book, one particularly competitive housewife declared, as the others nodded in agreement, slapping their palms together in a show of solidarity. Though the kitchen was filled with laughter, the lingering stress about calorie counts and opinions buzzed around like fruit flies at a summer picnic. And what about the kids? Shouldn't they be outside playing instead of fretting about every bite like we do? A parent cried as the children lazily played video games under the spell of sugar-filled snacks. But inside, wisdom ran high. After all, what's a mum without an occasional evening sip of wine? Ideally paired with a crunch of a low-calorie, deceptively named snack. It's for the kids, they'd exclaim, valiantly defending their nightly indulgences as if they were casters of spells for domestic tranquility. Yet amidst the comical facade there was a lot buried beneath. These women probed for connection between baby showers and breakups, not knowing if they were cleansing their emotional palate or simply consuming more of the same diet pill-fueled conversations. Who knew our social lives would revolve around whether or not the husband brought home kale chips again, sighed one weary housewife, drowning her sorrows in an oddly comforting buzz of absinthe-laced gossip. The real housewives found themselves in this perfectly imperfect cycle of seeking worth through weight loss, laughs, and countless bottles of miracle pills. And outside of their sun-kissed bubble, the world spun on, blissfully unaware that while they danced under disco balls and under layers of mascara, their heartbeats quickened for reasons beyond mere magic potions or social media likes. As it turned out, being a perfect housewife in the 1970s came with its own set of daunting smiles, secret sorrows, and the thin line between light-hearted humour and absolute exhaustion. Their journey, often walked on the dangerously tangled path of dieting and dubious friendships, ultimately begs the question: just how much was real, and how much was a carefully crafted illusion? If you think modern workouts are intense, you'd be positively thrilled by the 70s regime. Forget gentle yoga. This was a wild time involving a lot of "are you burning calories yet?" Every home came with an exercise mat, possibly stashed under the coffee table, paired with that trusty little diet pill. And let's not forget exercise videos that promised to carve you out of the same stone that possibly housed the Venus de Milo. You could pop a diet pill, pour a glass of tab, and voila. You were a fitness icon in your living room, gyrating away, sporting the hottest high-waisted trousers that very well might have doubled as a parachute. Now, let's talk about the fitness gurus who had America in a vice grip of lycra and enthusiasm. There was Jane Fonda, of course, with her high-energy workouts and totally 70s soundtrack that likely induced bouts of spontaneous discoing rather than legitimate exercise. Possessing the magnetic charm of 1,000 sunbeams, she somehow convinced millions that rolling around on the floor, sweating profusely while attempting to execute the perfect couch potato crunch, was a surefire way to achieve a summer bod. And if you weren't sweating, you were definitely not doing it right, as the sonorous tones of "Feel the Burn" echoed in every living room. Let's address the undeniable truth. Not all pills were created equal, and the side effects were the icing on the side of this kaleidoscopic cake. What good would a workout be if you weren't experiencing heart palpitations, insomnia, and perhaps a dash of mild paranoia, all while exercising in your living room? After all, who needs a personal trainer when you have the sheer adrenaline of the unknown coursing through your veins, courtesy of that little capsule you took before pressing play on Fonda? And if you think those exercise outfits were selective, think again. Visualize neon spandex so tight it might have required hazard pay just to put it on. And the leg warmers. Those fluffy, colourful bands were less about warmth and more about the airborne fashion statement that clashed with everything else. However, heaven forbid anyone pulled a muscle, because the moment you tried to rescue yourself from the depths of that stylish abyss, an audience formed around you, mostly your family, cheering loudly enough to eclipse the sound of your dignity plummeting along with your workout intensity. You'd often find your neighbour peeking through the window, longing for whatever workout magic you were conjuring up. Meanwhile, you desperately knitted together your tattered spirits and fleeting hopes, believing that the more you wobbled, the closer you drew to that elusive beach body. And if the motivation left you momentarily, there was always a quick fix in the shape of a diet pill to revive the spark of optimism. After all, if there's one thing stronger than your resolve to sweat, it's the power of marketing that's been diligently practiced at the hands of glittery gurus. Speaking of motivation, think about music, especially disco. Vibrant disco tracks blasted through stereo systems, fueling home workouts with infectious beats. It resembled a chaotic dance party, where you could barely tell whether it was aerobic regeneration in practice or merely everyone vibing to the beat while collapsing into an outstretched mat at the end. But really, did it matter? Swaying your hips and kicking your legs with reckless abandon was exercise, right? Who was checking for fitness form or calorie count anyway? Your heart rate was spiking just from excitement alone. When it came to motivation, self-deprivation played a major role, but not without unsolicited advice that somehow became a social norm. Every well-meaning friend and neighbour imparted knowledge about the importance of looking good and feeling good. "Have you tried not eating anything today?" was often said while simultaneously scarfing down a slice of cake. Fitness routines were shared in hushed tones, bouncing between sincere applause and the sweet temptations of forbidden desserts. "So, how's that pumpernickel bread working for your abs?" was the cringeworthy small talk of the 70s. At the end of the day, no one truly knew if those diet pills delivered the promised results or left them thrumming with a sense of impending anxiety. Yet somehow, the 70s workout craze symbolised more than just exercise. It illustrated the ongoing battle of perception versus reality, a swirling intersection of charm, chaos, and craziness. And as people slammed their mat down to catch their breath, they gained perspective that the unending cycle of dieting, exercising, and nerve-wracking home fitness was a journey best walked, or wobbled, together. So let's raise our bottles of low-calorie soda to an era that defined exaggerated workouts, moulded misled expectations, and ultimately revealed that one can dance through life under pressure between giddy stretches, survival mode calorie counting, and daily pulses of unexpected delight. Dinner conversations took a dark turn when pills and portions became the talk of the evening. "Pass the green beans." "Sure, Mum, but did you hear? Slimex is the future." Family dinners were less about togetherness, and a lot more about sneakily popping pills between bites of reheated casserole. The dinner table transformed into a battleground of ideals, where the conduct of family life collided with the latest dietary trends. Gone were the warm familial exchanges. Instead, The backdrop of forced laughter accompanied the rustling of pill bottles being discreetly opened under the table. Imagine the chaos. Dad, a beer in hand, trying to joke about the day's absurdities while simultaneously avoiding the awkward glares from Mum, who was having a tug-of-war battle with her self-worth versus the slim body she desperately wanted. "Please don't pass the potato salad," she'd say, eyeing the suspiciously generous heap on Uncle Larry's plate. Instead, she'd grab a handful of diet pills from her performance-enhancing stash, letting them slide down her throat like overripe grapes, while convincing herself they would serve dinner in a whole new way. In a twist of culinary irony, the food itself became the enemy. That tuna noodle casserole, once a family favourite, now felt like a guilt-ridden reminder of all those calories they were avoiding like the plague. Conversations morphed from how school went today to who might have found the latest miracle pill on discount at the pharmacy. "You heard about melt-away magic? Claims to knock off 10 pounds in 3 days, little Debbie exclaimed, as she eyed the person across her wanting to throw back their must-cook-for-change casserole. Tension rose with every slice of bread served, as Mum scolded everyone for not finishing their portion of vegetables. "Come on, guys, that's so many carbs." Ensuing eye rolls accompanied scoops of the neighbours' hottest gossip. But not about the latest garden tools, no. The gossip inevitably revolved around the town's most recent diet fads, and who was spotted devouring mind-popping bowls of funfetti ice cream on a lightning-fast cheat day. "But Aunt Susie's on the diet again," piped in Jenny, mimicking the owner of the 1975 Best Body Award at their latest skinny brunch. "Can you believe she says cucumber sandwiches paired with donuts are the key?" Laughter erupted, buoyed by the reality that all ideas were equally ridiculous yet equally liberating. Of course, the diet pill discussions took a darker turn when that inevitable underlying sense of guilt began to creep into the warm glow of the kitchen light. Mum would gather empty plates while Aunt Susie proclaimed she had the ultimate detox bath recipe. Or, even worse, the magic cleansing route your body craved. Did it involve drowning in raw kale and Brussels sprouts, all to be topped off with an organic toothpick? No one else had an answer for this absurdity. Kids would sit wide-eyed, partly amused and partly horrified, wondering how many of them could follow their parents' meal planning schemes without committing social suicide at lunch with their friends. Who could eat whole foods when one mum was boasting about her latest fitspiration, like it was the gospel truth? It was dinner time, but it resembled a feeding frenzy less than inviting and more like attending a corny motivational seminar. Even dessert had shifted to some ambiguous notion of health. "What's the deal with the organic sugar cookies?" Jenny would ask, with a tone dripping with confusion. "Are we eating those or storing them in our gym bags?" Dessert's very essence had become symbolic, a triumphant return to a battle for balance in the never-ending quest for the ideal diet. Eventually, desserts became a diversionary tactic. "More for everyone else, thanks." Mum would wave off the cookies, then mutter under her breath about needing to slim down before the big cookout. Dinner became not just about filling up, but about strategizing weight loss methods, all while pretending to enjoy an evening that had turned as chaotic as trying to fit into those increasingly snug, high-waisted jeans. After all, who needed real connection when pills and portion control already dictated the household? By the time the plates were cleared away, it was clear. Family meals were less about nurturing relationships than about structuring anxiety into manageable bites. And as they sat there, reckoning with their newfound realities over empty bowls, they shared that overlooked sense of camaraderie woven through erratic laughter, and stories utterly dominated by subliminal messages of conformity found buried deep in diet culture. Dinner wasn't quite a dinner anymore. It was a facade, and even amidst all the chaos, everyone was left pondering the real question. Was it really worth their sanity just to fit into something that could be described as a less comfortable illusion? Welcome to the land of grocery store aisles filled with more than bread and milk. This was where conversations were forged, whispers shared about the best diets, diet pills, and sneaky dessert recipes that you wouldn't dream of letting your neighbours in on. Who said shopping wasn't a competitive sport? Imagine stepping into a supermarket, and instead of being greeted by the mundane sound of shopping carts rolling across the polished floors, you encounter an echo of hushed conversations as housewives exchange war stories about which diet pills actually worked. It was a battleground of sorts, a tactical maneuver where the winning strategy involved maximising shopping efficiency, while minimising the risk of running into judgmental acquaintances. As you push your cart past the produce section, where fruits and vegetables were mere suggestive decorations for your diet plan, the delicate whispers followed you like an unshakable shadow. "Have you tried the new ones?" one housewife asks another, her eyes darting to ensure no eavesdroppers were close at hand. "I lost 10 pounds in a week," she calls out, as if her enthusiasm might fend off the looming spectre of chocolate chip cookies that haunted the frozen food aisle. Meanwhile, you can't help but glance into your cart, where 2 loaves of bread practically shame you for not going vegan on January 1st as resolved. And then there were the ones with a bit more flair. Diet pills. The glamour of bright packaging seemed to scream. This one holds the promise of a new life. You lean in closer as a friend reveals her secret stash hidden under the mango-flavoured aisle of midlife crisis. Imagine the scandal! Diet pills had become the kind of hush-hush thing you could never admit to family gatherings, let alone at book club. Really? You can eat a cupcake? Did you see what Debbie from down the street is doing? You can practically taste her anticipation for the gossip, as the aisles supplied fresh ammunition, worthy of future discussions over weak tea. Sure, there were product displays housing gleaming, multicoloured bottles that promised instant results. You'd find the words miracle, quick, and guaranteed emblazoned on labels, each competing for real estate in the overflowing cart of the hope and desperation. "Try the Fentamin," says one lady, clutching a shopping list like it was the last lifeboat on the Titanic. I felt like I was flying. Clearly I was living on borrowed energy, but did I care? Not when those scale numbers were dropping. Every grocery store visit was a veritable social event. The wine aisle was merely a facade for friendly encouragement, while guilt-ridden obstacles lay between you and your fancier battles, like the checkout line with its allure of tabloids featuring and glorifying impossible bodies. It's like a livestock auction, but for humans, you might think to yourself, secretly hoping no one breaks out a selfie stick to record living evidence of this chaos, and let's not even get started on the carts. The aesthetics of how you organised your groceries became a work of art. Got a single green pepper as an apology for the pizza rolls of doom, cooked up one witty housewife, who decided to manifest her right to adornment through a salad mix, while steering away from the really fun aisles. "You have to have the veggies to provide a veneer of virtue," she lamented with an exaggerated sigh, only to dive into those frozen delights once you're out of earshot. And oh, those disease-stricken chocolate bars were still there, basking stealthily in their shiny wrappers, mocking each would-be dieter. "We all know sneaking one in won't ruin everything," muttered someone while passing the checkout, trying to convince themselves that one wouldn't summon the same destiny that befalls all lost souls in the horrifying depths of food addiction. Ultimately, a bright world lay at the end of the aisle, replete with the remnants of a successful day, a cart filled with whispers, pills, and secret dessert recipes shared under the fluorescent lights of judgment. While rage against the machine of supermarket pricing reached fever pitch, the real victory was connecting with your fellow combatants in this adventure, Because in the end, nothing solidifies a friendship quite like a successful grocery outing soaked in friendly competitiveness. And of course, the tantalising promise of lower numbers at the next weigh-in. So, dear listener, as you tuck into bed tonight, remember this explorer of guilty pleasures nestled between the aisles of groceries and diet solutions. With the echoes of laughter and a few silent groans, may you embrace the absurdity of it all, and dream of a world where the only thing competing for your attention is a whimsical array of snacks. Fueled by 5 cups of coffee and the latest miracle pill, housewives turned their kitchen tables into strategy rooms. Girls' nights became a chance to swap diet war stories and post-caffeine jitters, while Mr. Coffee spilled innocent eavesdropping tea on just what was happening in the perfect world of suburbia. Were Pam and Linda really embarking on a new diet? Or was that just code for another late-night binge of reruns and Cheetos? In this brave new world, ladies shared not only their favourite muffin recipes, but their go-to pills, the ones that promise smooth sailing on the turbulent seas of caloric intake. As evening descended, couches transformed into platforms of honesty, where every story left a cliffhanger. Alice would lean over, lowering her voice to that intimate whisper filled with intrigue. I swear by Slimsy not. It melted these thighs faster than my kids can lose a shoe. Every word came wrapped in a conspiratorial sigh and a guilty smile, turning a casual living room into a clandestine headquarters for diet discourse. And oh, how the caffeine buzz enhanced their storytelling prowess. It was like an urban legend convention, but instead of creepy campfire tales, they spun tragedies about grocery store weights and measurement devices that seemed to conspire against them. Multicoloured pill bottles adorned the kitchen countertops, sparkling as brightly as the sequins on their disco outfits, inviting speculation about each magical ingredient within. Did you hear? Betty's been taking Slim Snatch pills, and she claims it allows her to eat cake while shedding 10 pounds. The whispers grew louder, as if the mere mention of such miracles prompted a communal need to scream, or at least cheer, just as loudly as the homemade cheerleading chants crafted by their daughters. But hidden beneath the zeal for weight loss was an undertone of fear. What if the pills did more than just subtract inches? Conversations would drift between dreams of svelte bodies to more severe concerns about side effects. Remember that time Jerry had a fit because I forgot to wash the cat? Well, let's just say those pills have a side effect called irritability, and I guarantee a few rivers of marital strife may have started from that miscommunication. Laughter echoed, a comforting reminder that despite the chaos and confusion, the shared experiences held them together. The truth was, they were not only battling flab, but the sometimes murky waters of life itself. Meanwhile, the coffee continued to pour, turning into a spunky Java that emboldened all who partook. Imaginary awards for crazy feats of dieting recovery were penned and presented, one mug at a time. I present you with the prestigious I Swapped Ice Cream for Sugar-Free Jello award, Susan would declare, holding up a slightly chipped ceramic cup while everyone cheered, half sincerely. In this network, where caffeine coursed through veins and dreams of perfection fueled their conversations, the evening became a festival of frozen yogurt flavours and imagined victories. But lurking beneath the powder-coated joy was a reality none dared to voice. The little pink magic pill had cast a shadow of doubt, and critical thoughts would occasionally creep through the cracks. Was I always supposed to dabble with drugs for dinner, someone would wonder, before sneaking another refill of that delightful drip? Hallucinating the illusion of it all, they tended to gain energy, flourishing personalities, and perhaps a smidge more reality distortion with every enchanting dose. The final toast of the night was a ritual, an uplifting chant marking the transition back to everyday life. "Here's to us, the perfect mommies, the thin queens," was shrieked, punctuated by the clink of ill-matched cups. And as the flurry of laughter faded, the gathering bottled up another evening of shared hopes, dreams, and yes, caffeine-driven delirium. Beneath the weight of growing concerns over the reliance on pills and caffeine lay a subtle struggle for identity, all of them hoping to find solace in those shaky moments of late-night bonding. When the coffee grounds settled and the night blurred into the morning light, reality sank like a lead weight. Tired eyes reflected the exhaustion of too many pills, too little sleep, and that lingering question, was any of this truly worth it? But until the next gathering, the mess and uncertainty of life melted into caffeine-infused camaraderie, a lasting potion to fortify them against the onslaught of growing pressures to achieve that perfect life. Thus, the saga of the coffee and pill social network continued, just as volatile and lively as the dance at the hottest local disco. They found strength in their shared vulnerability, and oddly enough, humour in their quest for perfection, even as they sped towards a very uncertain future on a pill-popping rollercoaster ride. Can you imagine a dreamy world where dinner out meant guilt-free dining? Everyone's raving about those diet desserts, pinning their hopes on the ever-elusive opponents of sugar. Spoiler, nobody truly felt guilt-free, especially when a waiter delivered your favourite dessert as your pill kicked into overdrive. In the 70s, every dining experience was an Olympic event, a balancing act between the promise of decadence and the quest for the perfect silhouette. As you scanned the menu, your eyes landed on sugar-free pie that boasted a mere 50 calories, as if the waitress had just handed you the key to the gates of paradise. The evening often started with an optimistic toast, perhaps a clink of glasses filled with so-called light cocktails, which, let's be honest, were merely watered-down versions of the real thing. Your friends nodded enthusiastically, and the air was thick with excitement. Or was it the odour of desperation? You had all come to the restaurant to put aside your worries, at least for tonight. After half-heartedly proclaiming how you only lived once, while simultaneously calculating your carb intake for the day, you found yourself glancing at the dessert menu like it was a forbidden fruit. Now let's talk about those diet desserts. They sounded fancy. Frozen yogurt delight with no sugar added was a phrase you could recite in your sleep. The reality? They kind of resembled a sad blob of ice cream that had been left out in the sun a bit too long, maybe even excessively frosted with a non-caloric glaze that had more in common with a chemistry experiment than dessert. And as if that wasn't shocking enough, when the waiter brought it out, you would hold your breath like it was the sacred goblet of ambrosia. Your friends leaned in eagerly, hungry for a taste of the healthy revolution. But here's where things really got interesting. Those alchemical desserts often had side effects that kicked in harder than a mosh pit at a punk rock show. Somewhere between the first bite and the final tilt of the dinner glass, you'd feel that familiar buzz, the exhilaration of your diet pill coursing through your veins. It felt a bit like being on a roller coaster, only instead of thrills and delightful screams, you were hit by waves of guilt and panic. Oh no, am I supposed to be enjoying this? The truth is that perfect combo of guilt and delight often left diners feeling like emotional yo-yos, swinging dangerously between bliss and regret. In those moments, everyone at the table began sharing their thoughts on the dietary necessity of turning their favourite dishes into submissive low-cal versions. You'd throw in a snarky remark about the cabbage soup diet, triggering a stunning chorus of laughter, because who didn't love reminiscing about the absurd lengths you had gone to while trying to shed those pesky pounds? And as hearty laughs echoed into the night, the waiter ambled back, ready to take dessert orders. More of that delicious sugar-free pie, he'd chirp, his timing impeccable. But let's be real, no one was actually ordering another round of that rubbery mush. As the night wore on, the excitement of dining out waned, leaving behind a trail of fading adrenaline and slightly greasy laughter. By dessert time, those diet desserts had morphed into something different. A challenge, a test of wills. Can I even finish this became the new conversational fill. You took each bite as if you were on trial, tracking your decisions as if they'd be reviewed in the court of public opinion. Someone would eventually mutter, "Oh, what the hell?" and dive into a mound of real chocolate fudge cake. The silence that followed was as heavy as your collective guilt. Finally, as plates were cleared away and checks brought to the table, relief washed over the group like a comforting blanket or a successful lighter workout on the dance floor. Yet beneath the joy, there lingered a shared acknowledgement. However delightful tonight might have been, tomorrow would bring a new cycle of guilt and promises broken. Sure, you photographed your plates as if they were art pieces and your nights out as marketing campaigns. But deep down, everyone knew that no amount of dieting pills could truly change how you felt about your choices, desserts included. In the grand scheme of dining out in the 1970s, it was a dance of rebellion wrapped in guilt, excitement mingling with anxiety, underscored by the pulsing rhythm of self-discovery, not necessarily how you envisioned weight loss after perusing the health food aisle. Because at the end of the day, reality and realistic sizes were two completely different dishes, and those diet pills weighed heavy in more than one way. Cue the snarky comments about pills never talk back as tensions between nutrition and family life hit new highs. So what if your diet means ditching the good old meatloaf with gravy? You were finally getting that bikini body and no one was stopping you. Family dinner time transformed into a battlefield during this era of dieting hysteria, redefining loyalty to the household versus loyalty to your waistline. Picture this: the parental authority figure grandma shrieking, "What do you mean no gravy? You'll ruin the potential for a good old-fashioned meatloaf. You don't want to be a skinny runt, do you?" In your mind, you were dreaming of radiant days spent at the beach. You just knew that if you could just manage to squeeze into that size 8 bikini, who are you kidding? All the pots and pans around the house would fade into oblivion. The truth was, there was nothing quite like the smell of a hearty dinner wafting through the kitchen. It called to you like an old friend, but then the dieting drama entered stage left, and dinner started sounding more like temptation. As you navigated your way through culinary cancel culture, the fare became a lineup of edible remorse. The gallant meatloaf was pushed aside like a dodgy ex, replaced by an array of nutritionally correct options that surely would leave you starving before dessert. This just so happened to coincide with your middle schooler's investigative phase, where asking the awkward, "Mummy, why are you counting calories?" became a daily ritual. "Oh, sweetie, it's more about self-control and feeling fabulous." Fabulous. A word that rolled off your tongue with the same sincerity you used when promising to love your family unconditionally. Who needed mashed potatoes covered in butter when they could whip up a kale salad dressed with a dash of hope? When did a simple side salad evolve into an affront to family tradition? Family members ventured into a staunch rebellion. What was once meatloaf night morphed into, "Let's make mum cry over her sad greens," which everyone pretended not to notice were wilting in disapproval at the corner of the dinner table. But rewinding a bit, can we talk about the anger that seeped into the atmosphere? The subtle shade thrown when you cracked open those miracle pills after shaving a cup of mashed potatoes off your plate. Was it so wrong to want a slim figure without suffering the consequences of Grandma's double-fried chicken recipe? If meatloaf and gravy were family traditions, maybe you could just use your recovery from that terrible diet pill hangover as proof that you were really committed to curb your cravings. Dinner became a titanic game of don't you dare look at that food, as grandmothers and kids spewed deliciously passive-aggressive comments as you succumbed to new meal alternatives. Cousin Cindy, bless her heart, now marched in with a trendy vegan casserole meant to minimise calories while amplifying side-eye glances at all the unsophisticated holiday meals of yonder days. "Sorry guys, we need to confront these traditional habits with health," she proclaimed. All of a sudden, Grandma found herself trying to cook like it was the Gulf War between her generation's love of all things buttery and your need to be truly seen. Fine then. Would anyone like to try gluten-free croutons in the salad? The croutons, much like your sanity in the whirlwind of food-based grief, went down fairly well. You tried to maintain a semblance of control over your sugar cravings, even if it meant chalking up wistful memories of Christmas dinners spent in full familial harmony. Week after week, your culinary stress heightened as you began to see your plate more like a canvas artwork than a meal, effective in nourishing your family. Artistic expression looks good in a gallery, Grandma. But let's get one thing straight. 32 calories for art isn't going to help anyone reach their goals. You would quell with an oddly manic look in your eyes, nestling your half-eaten, artfully arranged pile of greens, and wondering why on earth you ever doubted the power of good old-fashioned meatloaf. You were caught somewhere amidst the fading memories of what home-cooked happiness was versus what this new diet world presented as normal. You could have sworn it was one big whim, yet those round pills promised a body that would indeed turn heads on the beach. Now that was an offer worthy of a cold, hard winter. When family arguments morphed into debates over the nutritional value of breadcrumbs, you knew you were knee-deep in a dilemma. Suddenly, dinner was no longer a comfortable exchange of love. It became a, "you're weighing my insides against diet goals," precarious tightrope. Because let's be real, diets might bring the promise of weight loss, but somewhere in those swirling distinctions were invisible strings tugging at your heart. You weren't just losing weight. You were losing a piece of family love tied to every delicious recipe and comforting pot roast you could ever remember. So there you sat, a blended mess of nutrient concerns versus nostalgic family meals, and perhaps even the fervent hope that behind the envy-laden walls of dinner tables everywhere, maybe, just maybe, happiness didn't need to come wrapped in pills or kale after all. An era where daughters cringed at the mention of their dieting mums and popped up letters from crushed snack cake packages in the pantry, like it's a secret war. Welcome to the age where teenagers waged their own ad campaigns against the war on mum's health trends, often spearheaded by their own distinctly unhealthy snacking choices. Late-night scuffles over cookies and chips became less about the deliciousness of snacks and more about survival in a land ruled by the mighty diet pill. And of course, what better way to lead this rebellion than with an eye roll and a classic, "You don't understand my struggle, Mom," as they storm out of the kitchen. Picture the scene. Your teenage daughter diverts her eyes at the sight of Mum struggling through yet another day of 1 to 200 calorie fitness plans and 3-hour exercise tapes. Instead of supporting the family diet plan, she's hoarding marshmallows like their currency. Every well-meaning diet tip dispensed by an eager mum was now met with a weary, swift dismissal. "But Mom, did you know that donut is actually just a synonym for life?" Daughters became the queens of quick rebuttals, as if they were armed with pre-approved scripts from the high school debating club. As Mum sat at the table, meticulously measuring her portions like a chemist in a laboratory, the teenager lurked beside her, plotting snack strategies. "You call that a snack? More like a sad salad." And while the mum uncapped her bottle of grapefruit juice, a supposed miracle cure, the daughter looked like she was blissfully cracking open a tube of cookie dough. There's nothing quite like the sweet smell of defiance wafting throughout the kitchen, mingling with the spirit of rebellion. Living under one roof, the battle over snacks led to a cord of tension that could rival the wires in a high-voltage electrical grid. The vacuum seal of a prepackaged snack food was often broken by wayward hands, seeking refuge from the social pressures surrounding them. all while mothers plastered diet charts on the fridge, adamant that every inch counted down to the last tantalising crumb. It's like a sitcom episode scripted by pure chaos, where passive-aggressive snack exchanges became the episode highlight. And then came the unsolicited advice, not from counsellors or support groups, but from the girls who browsed through magazines while shoving handfuls of crunchy snacks into their mouths. Because who had time for healthy when dazzling photos of effortless beauty were waiting? Mom, you should try this new diet. It requires you to only eat lotus flowers and drink ice-cold lemon water. Scene blinked into focus, while mothers busily pored over catalogues of recipes emphasising low-calorie entrees. Their teenage daughters were inviting their friends over for pasta parties, declaring it a popcorn and soda soiree while they snuggled under the couch covers. And let's not forget the dreaded trust issues. Not every canister of powdered protein went unchallenged. The irony was rich as teenage daughters hosted passive-aggressive critiques of every bite their mothers dared to compromise over. Do you think I'd rather have crustless sandwiches made from vomit-flavoured diet bread? One teen retorted during a tense dinner while eyeing a plate of tasteless cooking. Who knew that diet regimens could create the space for such deliciously candid assessments of mum's culinary skills? Occasionally, just when it looked like the tension could hit a boiling point, it would diffuse into an unexpected moment of bonding. Picture mum sneaking a cookie while pretending to monitor the weight loss program, and the daughter responding, "Okay, but you know I'm really only doing this for you, right? So can I help you eat these?" A united front over dessert often had everyone questioning the wisdom of those colourful diet pills and the wisdom of their far-off excitement. In these mother-daughter wars of the 70s, lessons were learned over plates of uneaten leafy greens and spoonfuls of ice cream only half-heartedly endorsed. Eventually, through remarkably tight budgets spent well on snack runs, combined with the relatively healthy process of laughter, both sides learned there's no harm in a middle ground. In a world dominated by dieting disasters, and products with promises as empty as a well-puffed marshmallow, these teenage girls proved just how delicious it was to navigate those rough waters of emerging adulthood with a cheeky grin and perfectly timed snark. This story of crumpled candy wrappers and clandestine nibbles ultimately propelled generations towards self-acceptance, nostalgic chuckles over memory lanes, and the rotating doors at the local snack aisle. So here's to those daughters, those snack-wielding soldiers of independence. Amidst the flurry of diet fads, they danced to an offbeat joy that would culminate in a legacy much richer than the crunch of chips alone. Picture this. The shift from average girl next door to size 0 isn't real. If ever a time existed where body positivity movements started within misguided intentions, this would be it. With everyone vying for the hottest looks while swallowing pills like candy, mulls were full of both newcomers and their surprisingly weightless egos. Suddenly, it wasn't just about fitting into clothes. It was about squeezing into a new persona, one made of polyester, shapes that made your silhouette appear like it was chiselled from a blockbuster video cover, and a little pill that promised to do all of the above while you binge-watched The Brady Bunch. First, let's take a closer look at those beloved fashion staples of the time. Mini skirts, tube tops and bell bottoms became the trifecta of fashion. These vibrant textiles created an illusion of fabulousness, ensuring no one paid attention to those pesky little side effects of their diet pills, the joyless reality of insomnia and anxiety, with a pinch of jittery excitement for good measure. You woke up feeling like a disco ball and hit the dance floor ready to shine, but not without that faint sense of impending caffeine-induced meltdown hanging over your head like an ominous thundercloud. How could you forget about that irresistible lure of going shopping? Malls, once the domains of innocent weekend fun, transformed into battlegrounds where every outfit was a strategic weapon of joy and aspiration. Picture yourself surrounded by mannequins whose bodies were impossibly thin. So impossibly thin, in fact, they existed off of nothing but the sunlight and the hope of humanity. The stores were ablaze in vibrant colours as women strived for that blurred definition of beauty, an aesthetic that only came in size skinny. Standing in front of those very mannequins laden with bi-weekly diet pill cycles, who wouldn't question their worth? But while all this was happening externally, a curious metamorphosis was underway within. The first-time diet pill user clutched at their fashionable outfit with the same eagerness that a toddler grasps a shiny new toy. You see, it wasn't just the body that was trapped in pill-induced alterations. It was the mind too, transforming into a dramatic character, unravelling before anyone's eyes. Imagine standing in a mirror, hoping for the illusion of curves while reminding yourself that beauty was just another pill away. If only life could be so tailor-made. And what about those darlings of the beauty industry? As diet pills took centre stage, they brought their accompanying cheekbones and tiny waists alongside them. Bonus! Gone were the days when you could enjoy a slice of authentic pizza without the onslaught of doubts. Instead, you replaced it with the clarity of freshly crushed aspiration, blended with feelings of inadequacy. You might as well have traded your dinner rolls for the latest fad diet magazine. Who are we kidding? In those days, even our desserts had to come with a disclaimer that they had 0-calorie frosting, the kind that only lives in our collective imagination. As time went on, the echoed cries of "let's celebrate curves" began to surface amidst the long-live size 0 message. Suddenly the world seemed torn between loving every inch of difference and clinging to the shackles of society's unyielding perfect imagery. But as empowering as it sounded to embrace every luscious curve, the remnants of diet culture crept back in. Jeans that were once tolerable suddenly felt more claustrophobic than a can of sardines, an unwanted metaphor for reality. Enter the curvy chic movement, a powerful endeavour wrapped in colourful satin and optimism. Everyone suddenly wanted to redefine their aesthetic while clutching tightly to the thrill of their latest pill-packed daily roster. "Dare to be different," they shouted, while ironically squeezing into the trend-forged moulds that once dictated their every awkward dance at high school sock hops. By the end of the decade, self-acceptance morphed into a frenzied search for what exactly gave you value. One moment, you were a poster child of body positivity. The next, your reflection of curvy chic collided violently with the looming threat of yesterday's trend of size 0. After all, we willingly dance to the rhythm of makeovers while blindly ignoring the relentless societal standards determining our existence. It was the most tumultuous time for women seeking independence, fighting against the tightly wound ribbons of beauty while navigating the dangerous waters of a pill-popping diet revolution. In the end, the fashion trends of the 70s shaped more than just the way women dressed. They altered their entire perception of self. From size 0 to curvy chic, the tumultuous journey showcased that confidence was sometimes merely a colourful disguise. As the years would pass, one thing remained certain. The real allure was not in fitting into the tape measure dreams, but finding ourselves in the laughter that accompanied those ridiculous diet stories shared at a local diner, a reminder that being fabulous was never meant to come from a pill. Forget what Granny told you. Grandmothers in the 70s had their own take on dietary advice. This was a time when herbal remedies might have just meant the same 78-cent miracle pill that promised to cure whatever your soul was churning over. "Mum, Grandma says it's all natural," was the mantra of every eager child sampling dubious concoctions in grandmothers' kitchens. Picture kitchens filled not with the fragrant aromas of baked goods, but with the funky scent of mystery herbs, many of which were acquired through well-intentioned but oftentimes misguided word of mouth. For starters, let's discuss the infamous apple cider vinegar. You might think it'd be worthy of a decorative glass bottle, right? Nope. It was a pantry staple that grandmas swore could prevent wrinkles, cure arthritis, and help you lose weight faster than you could say, settle down. That's right. The village sage was all about dousing everything in ACV and chasing it down with that trusty greenish miracle pill. Nothing says wellness quite like your grandmother dishing you a tablespoon of something that looks like a science project gone wrong, followed by a bright pink capsule whose ingredients might actually be printed in an alien language. Meanwhile, worsening the whirlwind of confusing remedies was the heady allure of gan grapefruit juice. Grandma was convinced this tangy beverage could do more than just quench your thirst. Convinced the grapefruit diet was the real deal, she'd hand you a glass demanding you sip slowly. And now you could only imagine the diet pills you were going to need to eliminate the lingering sour taste. All the while, advice would pour out like a script from a poorly written sitcom. Just drink this once a day, and you won't want anything else. Ah, yes. If only the allure of grapefruit juice didn't also include the very real challenge of surrendering your social life at the local brunch spot forever. Naturally, we can't overlook the rite of passage that was herbal tea time. Grandma loves her teas, dear, was another adage that echoed in many a family home. Somewhere between the gigantic teapot and the pile of complimentary biscuit boxes, none of us discussed the fact that steaming hot tea, made from God knows what herbs bought from a peculiar health store, might have left us feeling more nauseous than relaxed. It was one more twisted round of magic potion. The cute little village of wonder on the label promising to banish all your problems, and let's address the packaging. Influenced by marketing akin to a superhero movie poster, many grandmas swooned at their KitchenAid tea infuser, a product that's solidly locked in the 1970s aesthetic. Instead of sleek design, consider the neon carving exuberance. Because what says natural remedy? Like a lemon green kettle that shone brighter than your expectations. Toss that rusty old kettle in favour of its bright opaque enemy, the one with stickers of dancing flowers and cheeky slogans. Who wouldn't want a fun herbal drink? Now let's focus on the art of mashing. It's easy. Enter grannies donning their skilled aprons, ready to whip up their infamous ginger pastus to ward off colds and flus. But wait, if you think the ginger root was genuine, try telling it to the grandma mixing it in with a pinch of something that might as well be chalk dust. At least that would explain the white speckles blending in. Oh, sweetie, it's just a bit of turmeric for its health benefits, she would insist, as you silently debated taking your chances with the bitter chemical look of the diet pills after all. But when it comes down to it, home remedies left everyone somewhere between baffled and bemused. As modern-day enlightenment meets the 1970s dietary challenges, there existed a surreal serenity in people's need to cling to homeopathy, desperately hoping it would do wonders with each pill taken and flowered teacup used. Relaxing. Perhaps for one, a heroic act of nutritional defiance against the looming calorie demon. Absolutely. Oh, how those kitchen smoothies and tea moments blended together in an odd concoction of better safe than sorry. You might find your ideals thin in the light of day, or just chased away by another dose of grapefruit juice until the next opportunity to embrace an oddity present itself. Whatever it was, the homemade remedy legacy was real, and thankfully wouldn't be bottled up anytime soon. So raise that whimsical herbal concoction, perhaps toasted over a pill, sipping cautiously, and toast to the adventure that is Grandma's kitchen. Welcome to a whirlwind of beauty expectations, from big hair to tan lines, where you were worth your weight in charm and a diet pill or two. Better put down that taco. Your perfect Miami Beach bod depends on precise choices of beach reads and that last surviving stack of diet pills. In the neon-lit landscape of the 70s, the pressure to conform to shifting beauty standards was higher than the platform shoes many donned with pride. Forget the simple elegance of the past. This was the era when even your hairspray had its own zip code. Seriously, if you weren't making a statement with your hair, were you even participating in the Cultural Revolution? Now, step into any local mall, the sacred ground for emerging suburban fashion, and you'd find shop windows showcasing styles that teetered on the brink of absurdity. Miniskirts, go-go boots, crop tops that seemed to make a little less fabric a literal fashion statement, and of course there were diet pills dangling the promise of a silhouette sharper than any of those high-waisted jeans you were flamboyantly flaunting. Friends would swap tales of weight loss successes over cups filled with diet soda, a proper trade of success stories and personal ads for their latest magic number. And the results? Sometimes they were more illusion than endorsement. Let's talk about the main potion used for this massive transformation. Those uncanny little pills. No longer just painkillers or the occasional allergy reliever, these capsules turned into the fountain of youth, or so many candidates believed during their whirlwinds of disillusionment. Picture this. The occasional housewife who'd previously existed in effortless bliss would down these pills faster than her kids could down their after-school snacks. Weight loss without the work, they proclaimed as they shuffled off burdens into the beautiful oblivion of momentary happiness, a bliss often interrupted by alarming jitters and a general sense of impending doom. Truly, were they losing weight, or was it just shaking off the entire concept of relaxation? Meanwhile, the media continued to churn out images of ideal body types that would ripple through society like a Tide commercial on the evening news. TV commercials boasted one-size-fits-all beauty solutions that could be effortlessly yours if you purchased the right items. Buy this cream, use these pills, and you'll be the belle of the ball, they shrieked, layering yet another layer of expectation upon the already overwhelmed minds of budding daughters or the stressed-out suburban mums attempting to live in a world of extreme perfection. And mark my words, if you didn't fit into that box, well, you were probably hitting the buffet table like it was last call at a meagre pizza parlour. In the midst of this all-consuming chaos, self-worth became an Olympic event. Beauty standards used to rely on your kindness, your ability to bake a perfect pie, or to rock a deep conversation over mint tea. Forget that, darling. Now all that mattered was whether your hairstyling happened to catch the right amount of light, and if you could pose with confidence in your hottest new swimwear while clutching your latest diet pill bottle. It was quite the refreshing reality check. Who even needed self-respect when you could instead embrace a beauty culture fueled by envy? In essence, youth and thinness camouflaged any signs of natural aging. Those women were truly driven by a haunting image of the best version of themselves, projected by billboards and glossy magazine covers, a version that took to self-denial like it was a trendy cocktail at the latest disco. Meanwhile, the inevitable snack food binges loomed, and every crispy chip or creamy dessert felt like a direct rebellion against that idealized image, fanned by a raging whirlwind of guilt. But amidst it all, housewives held onto their secrets, diet pills to help them bend the rules, plus stylish dresses that might distract from any dimpled legs. Yet behind every vibrant blouse lurked an elephant-sized question. Was it all worth it? As those self-inflicted beauty norms spiraled upwards, so too did the laughter amongst some women, as they understood that the facade they tried to maintain was just that, an elaborate illusion. So, as you swirl through your curated life of curated moments and embody goals, let's remain wise to the reality. Beauty is more than a few pills and a pair of sky-high heels. It's laughter shared over tired stories, the resilience in refusing to take yourself too seriously, and perhaps allowing a slice of that taco back into your life. Because remember, while the standards of beauty ebbed and flowed, true confidence sparkles from within, like a glorious disco ball on a Saturday night, always shining. Did you think your kitchen had enough room for another miracle cure? Enter cabbage soup and awkward meal plans, the original "what's for dinner?" nightmare. Trust me, no polite dinner guest ever flipped eagerly at the prospect of soup that instantly screams, "What have you done to your body?" As the scent of boiling cabbage filled the air, you could practically hear the hearts of your dinner guests sinking like a lead balloon. Under the guise of weight loss, cabbage soup developed a sinister reputation, equivalent to Pandora's box for the kitchen. Once it's out, good luck stuffing it back inside. Let's set the scene. You're riding high on the wave of your latest diet pill success, confident that a meal of shredded cabbage slushed in vegetable broth will do wonders. This simple concoction was marketed as the knight in shining armour for many a suburban housewife. Somehow, a steaming bowl of cabbage soup could promise weight loss, detoxification, and, who wouldn't want it, instant beach body readiness. It became the culinary equivalent of a frontier myth. Your friends would gather round, bowls in hand, and cautiously watch each other for reactions, because this isn't just food, friends, it's a test of loyalty. Imagine the once grand feasts lovingly curated by your mother. Roasts, mashed potatoes, and decadent desserts, transitioning to a night of cabbage soup surprise. It's always an adventure when mystery ingredients and your hopes for a lighter dinner clash. Instead of twinkling wine glasses, there's a rusted can opener, and choices boiled down to two: cabbage or death by starvation. And as the soup glurps into the bowls, your enthusiasm swells, until the first taste wraps around your taste buds like something purgatory imposed as a side dish. This was culinary punishment with a trendy, handsome name attached to it. But let's be real. How many of us secretly thought about ordering a pizza on the way home rather than face another round of cabbage soup? You'd eye your meal prep, mentally recalibrating your relationship with detox. Suddenly, cabbage soup fast feels like some form of social experiment where the goal was to see how quickly you could convince your stomach that desperation and health could coexist in the same bowl. Nevertheless, as your stomach grumbles in unfathomable regret, you wonder how many ladies went through similar battles that turned Tuesday nights into culinary tragedy. What are we really doing when we pour steaming cabbage soup into bowls? A gain of 1 to 2 pounds mysteriously vanished, leaving behind echoes of digestive displeasure. Let's not forget, though, many would become zealous in their commitment, convinced there'd be no downside to shoving filthy cabbage stems into pots like their lives depended on it, as if the act alone would collate their inner desires, a sheer wish for a thin waistline and glimmering compliments from the neighbourhood. It's fascinating how something so seemingly innocent could transform into a housewife's hottest gossip over coffee. One eyewitness account of your soup diet morphs into whispers and vociferous approval. Patty from next door might even launch into a low-key, hand-pressured diet pill infantry, where she claims to have lost 10 pounds just by glancing at a bowl of cabbage. Before long, someone inevitably volunteers to host a cabbage soup party, judging everyone simultaneously. Incredibly, these diet fads birthed bonds over boiling vegetable juices nobody wanted. You couldn't help but validate your new healthy friendships through trial by cabbage. But the pride of health seldom outshone the over-enthusiastic longing for a cheeseburger after reaching the end of a week. Oh, how that thought gnawed at you. By the end of the diet week, the myth of rejuvenation faded faster than the last scraps of green carrots scraping the pots clean. As trends faded and diets evolved, those recipes lingered long enough to imprint on every housewife's "things I tried once" scrapbook, lingering like an awkward first date that doesn't end well. And so, like clockwork, ladies cinched their waistlines tighter, calculated their losses and gains, and prayed each bowl of cabbage brought them closer to the elusive summer glow. Cabbage soup, with all its inherent absurdity, emerged as an emblematic failure among the silver linings of 70s dieting hopes and hollowed-out kitchens, a living, breathing contradiction of dieting mastermind dreams and gooey, cabbage-steeped reality. The myth lived on, teaching everyone that sometimes a bowl of soup needed to be more than just sustenance. It needed a fun nickname and plenty of garlic to hide the truth. A time when caring friends slid quietly into intervention mode over what they all just couldn't understand. How many side-eyes could one woman absorb before a casserole became a highly entangled and convoluted form of support? Life's slippery slopes became more about chronicling than respecting boundaries. With diet pills reshaping expectations and quickly turning the neighbourhood cafe into a not-so-secret support group, tight-knit friendships became canvases for concern that painted a much larger picture. Picture it. Your sweet neighbour, Betty, once a sprightly whirling dervish, now exuding the kind of jittery vibes usually contained within a can of soda just after shaking. But in that world of predictable how-do-you-dos, the existential questions were brewing. Was this weight loss obsession normal? Was it too late to ask what was in those little pills that helped her skip dessert, but still made her wide-eyed like a deer on espresso? Perhaps a casserole delivery could mend some of this escalating tension, until someone ordered a showdown over frozen pizza sleeves. Then came the casserole phenomenon, the point of no return. Just imagine pots and pans filled with lovely, greasy goodness materializing at your doorstep, each a token, a silent plea bringing a sense of unity among friends in support. Too much concern had quietly crept in, and soon, "carbs are evil" became a battle cry more potent than any taste like Mum used to make. Suddenly you were juggling a stack of Tupperware filled with hearty casseroles that contradicted whatever current diet trend was simmering on the horizon. Friends rallied together, and the potlucks morphed into automated interventions at breakneck speed. Betty's friends would exchange knowing glances, sharing a mix of "this can't be healthy" looks while casually being offered the broccoli cheese delight. "You really should try this, it's so healthy," became a euphemism, the subtext of which was, "just please, dear friend, don't invite those diet pills into this casserole-induced chit-chat." But let's not gloss over the awkward, trembling awareness that emerged with every casserole-swirled dinner. Betty's friends felt guilty for serving unequivocal carbs while offering sympathy, like nice day-old bread that went stale in the pantry. The conundrum simmered on as judgment baked behind the scenes. They wrestled with whether indulging here could help confront those little pills hold, or were they just inviting delicious housebound shame into the fold? The 58-minute nutrition workshops were concurrent developments, along with Betty's colourful habit of disappearing into the family room for yet another diet pill. Friends wouldn't dare to ask, "Are you really sure this is working?" as their instincts would race, knowing full well that survival apparently hinged on just being polite, until the subject was brought up openly over another casserole party. Days turned into weeks, and the once quaint spiral into gentle concern began to take a disheartening turn. Grim conversions of funny, pill-side stories framed discussions as the evening dwindled. Was it right to throw friendly casserole gatherings when Betty had started wearing that "I Heart Diet Pals" tee? By now, Betty's reflections of self had turned into this oblivion of bright colours and delightful hallucinations, and no one knew quite how to pull her back down from her newfound high. Conversations morphed into support circles of friends arguing over what to do. One friend would bring a delicious fat-free cake, and another would throw in the towel entirely. "I'm done if we don't talk about Betty and those pills." The air came thick with passive aggression, and perfectly placed pocket advice that occasionally became blatant pleas to have Betty ditch the pills for some time. Maybe even to reclaim not only her plate, but her stolen sanity. As nights danced into laughter-thick chaos, friends plotted their next, often overly enthusiastic interventions, with a charm they felt would impress their ever-dieting neighbour. You know what works? A trip to the coast for fresh seafood and this crunchy shrimp casserole? That can surely replace all of these pills. Let's just say at this point, Betty could have used the real therapy more than flavoured green beans and endless casserole debates, which led to mixed emotions that would simmer beneath the surface of cheesy discussions. To put it simply, it came down to just how much Betty wanted to be pulled into her friend's caring warmth, rather than whatever drug-sedated world she thought was a gilded reality. Finding a supportive network, albeit casserole-laden and full of hidden sympathy, was the only lasting lesson amid the diet pill revolt that could have secured Betty's sanity and formed real friendships when moments demanded interventions deeper than what could fit in Tupperware. What could this uncertain world of casserole and diet pills birthed expect of shaping them in either way? As stories and saccharine giggles curdled back into an uncomfortable place, some would cling to the remnants of potato-free bliss, while others prowled quietly yet deeply, questioning how many naps and pills were exchanged for warmth, lost among the cobwebs of taker, pranksters and solid friendships. With that, they resolved to stand firm, watching Betty, not just as the cautionary tale of suburban excess, but as friends dared to say, "One casserole at a time, we'll find our way back to you." Let's discuss emotional eating when everything felt 2 times heavier than last week's failed high-energy diet attempt. This was a peculiar time in history where chips became the consolation prize, with a side serving of fries. Who needed bodybuilding when you could be riding a roller coaster of caffeinated feelings instead? Picture this. You're flipping through the channels, past the aerobics classes with perky instructors, their vibrant 80s leotards clashing with your hopes of transformation. You might even catch a glimpse of the infamous Diet Delight commercials that present salads coated in what looks suspiciously like jelly. Meanwhile, your dinner plate is calling from the kitchen, the aroma of fried delights wafting in like a siren's song. Emotional eating during the 70s was an Olympic sport for many housewives, a competitive event marked by the unrelenting tension between societal expectations and personal cravings. So when life served up a buffet of unchecked emotions, why not dive headfirst into a tub of ice cream? Or worse, the leftovers of last Sunday's potluck. As weekends rolled by, the pressure was on to shop, prepare, and serve. Suddenly, the casserole that was supposed to represent closeness instead morphed into a battleground between calorie counts and guilty pleasures. With the infamous crash diets looming over every women's circle, the idea of satisfying that primal need for comfort became an unspoken rebellion against the scale and the whispers of, "Are you really going to eat that?" Each crunch of a chip was almost a quiet protest against mastering domestic bliss, one crispy morsel at a time, and let's not forget the glorious snack hoarding. You may have started your day with dreams of a tofu and carrot wrap, but by 10 a.m, those dreams crumbled like last week's crackers. By 11, you found refuge in a half-eaten bag of chips secretly wedged behind the preposterously large store of Tupperware in the pantry, each bite whispering sweet nothings like, "This is for your hard work." Did someone say, "Snack attack"? Suddenly the sound of crunching chips became your own theme song, an anthem for the well-deserved indulgences just piled up in a mountain of who cares. The irony is delicious, isn't it? Women sought solace while sometimes furiously battling the societal curse of being not enough. The pressure of maintaining the idyllic family while trying to keep a figure that echoed the latest fashion trends created a perfect storm. Why fawn over an elliptical machine when you could languish in the arms of some well-seasoned potato chips instead? When evenings rolled around, the unwinding routines shifted from restful self-care to feeding that all-consuming hunger gnawing at your insides. Emotionally speaking, it was a free-for-all for many housewives who who vacillated between feeling proud of their high-ticket vitamin cocktail and battling the insatiable urge for something more concrete. Heaven forbid if just one more slice of that gooey chocolate cake from the neighbour's house turned into a full-blown rerun of "Why did I even think I could do this?" And in true 70s fashion, the volcano of guilt that erupted immediately after satisfying those cravings was nothing short of seismic. Because here's the twist. It was not the cravings that felt bad, but the layers of guilt that washed over the guilty pleasure. For every morsel consumed, a little voice echoed in the back of your mind. You know you should be on that new detox diet of the week instead. Emotionally eating became a silent struggle, a turbulent sea of cognitive dissonance. So what happens when the dust settles after a night of indulgence, perhaps spent half-heartedly watching whatever nonsense was playing on TV? That moment of silence wasn't just about finding your place in the world of casseroles and crazed diets. It was also about wrestling with your decisions over a glass of red wine that might, or might not, be the quintessential sacrament of self-love. In the end, the 70s brought a peculiar mix of love and loathing to the dining table. Heads were held high against the noise of societal expectations, but hearts sank under the weight of those calories consumed. Just as diet pills promised a magical escape, emotional eating stood boldly as a ritual of comfort, a reminder that even in a world splattered with the absurd, the cravings could bond humanity, one chip at a time. As the dust settled, enter the necessary reality check for many a sweet housewife. Thrown off those pills meant confronting reality, a hotter topic of conversation than even the styles circulating around local salons. Nobody casually traded stories about actual side effects over coffee anymore. No one had the tenacity to admit they had spent way too much time deciphering what was real and what was a hallucination induced by a single pill. That very claim had undoubtedly led to an eye-rolling challenge among neighbours. Moving through these hangouts became akin to navigating through a minefield of regret and chiming laughter. While one woman sought solace in her kale smoothies, another was just trying to figure out how to explain her now. Balanced metabolism to friends who still believed "you are what you eat" didn't pertain to their drugstore menu. And so they'd meet in coffee shops and pseudo-healthy hotspots, talking over glasses of overpriced organic juice about their journeys. Transitions so dramatic they might as well have been hosting their own mini reality shows. What was that one pill even called? Slim It All? I think I saw it on late-night TV, one wife might exclaim, giggling as she stirred her herbal tea with an air of dramatic flair, while dodging the side-eye from her companion, ensuring her details were on point for the necessary gossip circle. The vein of disbelief ran hot and hard. It was 1978, and everyone was still piecing together fragmented memories of a time when they'd traded their sanity for slender silhouettes. Typically, no one owned up to the fact that some had almost traded cold pizza for cold medication. Over the years, housewives began entertaining the idea of balancing their lives without those magical pills. They suddenly discovered that exercising was not just a modern form of torture. Anyone still staring incredulously at the gym trainers could attest to that. It was almost absurd. Did they dare revisit those glamorous workout classes where an evil-sounding person shouted encouragements while simultaneously punishing them with jump squats? They seemed as challenging as a walk through an obstacle course, comprised of thinning patience and hopeful dreams. And yet, lurking beneath those vibrant 70s headbands and workout tapes lay a bubbling anticipation for self-acceptance wrapped in the weight of familiarity. Post-diet pill, here's the real kick, many would remark, because nobody's perfect. The irony was deliciously thick, as if confirming that the general take on reality was that you were either on an endless cycle of diet and exercise, or so far off course that an intervention was the only possible endgame that awaited. The war stories were vaults of secrets divulged only over organic salads that had become part of a vigil against the past. Little by little, they embraced emotional eating, touted the benefits of guilt-free cookies, and indulged in cake, while swearing, "Just one more won't hurt." "You can't have a comeback without a cupcake," someone cleverly crafted as a tagline for Instagram, leaving many older mums both confused and proud. The unspoken pact among the table ensured everyone dealt with the consequences collectively when forgiving themselves for both past decisions and endless cravings. The discussions traversed through varying shades of confusion. It feels like the 1970s were just yesterday, one admitted. And here we are, still talking about micromanaging our diets and getting the perfect bikini body. Why are we reincarnating nostalgic obsessions? As the laughter rippled through the air of that quaint cafe, the women ambled through each other's thoughts, halos of self-improvement encumbered by valleys of critiques. They began comparing notes. Oh, didn't that feel great? For dinner, they could swap escapades and recipes while rediscovering the beauty of food as an art form rather than pure sustenance. It suddenly became a symphony where they applauded thick gravy and homemade quiches, imitating those hip, soulful songs reverberating from the stereo in the background. They navigated their revelry. Nothing screamed recovery quite like filling your stomach further entrapped in chit-chat. I mean, who knew that much butter would send me to high heaven? So, in the end, those stories of struggle were woven into something remarkably poignant, an appreciation for life beyond the confines of pills and fashion. They seized the moment. They reclaimed laughter while allowing personal victories over the years of conformity to ripple wide and far. Housewifely escapades flourished as they stepped out to waltz through the rest of the decade, sharing their glimmering, often cheesy future one harmless dinner at a time, accidental slippers and all. Who needed therapy? Enter the aging gracefully drama, where you hated your reflection more than you liked your birthday cake. Even as pills faded away from the aisles, their friendly aunt who was once cool could no longer hide. Cue dramatic aging moments, and more big hair than ever as society choked back its opinions around Tai Chi. Suddenly every mirror became enemy territory, a ruthless reflector of the wear and tear from years spent chasing the elusive notion of perfection via magical little pills. Whether it was greying hair, laugh lines, or the tragic realization that collagen wasn't a fairy godmother, it was all happening, and it felt like an unwelcome party crashing through those once hallowed halls of youthful confidence. Now you might have found solace in couch cushions more than in your mum's extravagant scrapbooks filled with family gatherings and sunlit beaches. Who knew the path to looking fabulous ahead of your time was actually an emotional relay race, complete with side glances and coffee breaks that lasted just long enough for you to contemplate the meaning of life paired with a lack of foundation? Meanwhile, everyone else had their kale smoothies and detox teas, while you settled for the nostalgia of that last diet pill and the all-too-familiar instant cravings for a guilt-free pizza delivery. Ah, pizza. The very food that could make one's heart race while simultaneously sending them into a spiralling existential crisis that had them questioning all those choices they made in their past as they gaped in horror at the freezer aisle, longingly eyeing that one slice from last month's birthday party. You could almost hear the pizza beckoning, whispering sweet nothings like, "You know I'm still delicious, even if your pants tell a different story." It was a temptation as old as time, firmly entangled in the fabric of our taste buds and indecision. Of course, the once invincible housewives, now embracing evocative catchphrases like the power of self-love, found themselves in a whole new conundrum. Should they accept reality or lie about their ages like they were auditioning for an off Broadway show titled Never Gonna Tell? This brought about homeopathic salespeople, armed with brochures filled with fantastically delusional claims about defying the sands of time. Try this herbal concoction, they'd declare, luring you in faster than you could say, "Yes, please." You know exactly what's coming. Perpetual cycles of hope and intermittent despair as you pondered whether that sprig of parsley could really hold the key to eternal youth, or just deliver a painful gastrointestinal outcome. And while the local wellness experts preached about balance, moderation and restorative yoga, the truth was their six-pack abs felt more threatening than inspiring. Those spandex-clad adventurers didn't help you adjust your life goals from mild-mannered housewife to yogini, goddess 2020. Meanwhile, you navigated your post-pill life like a minivan dodging potholes, soaking up the ache of stretched jeans and crinkled elbows that couldn't quite remember what firm used to feel like. Let's face it, aging gracefully often meant surrendering to that bubbly feeling of early onset joint pain, and for some reason, that always seemed to strike right around the time when dressing up became your worst nightmare. So as you gently reminisced, perhaps hormonally affected and probably wide-eyed while trying to recall where you left your yoga mat, the choice was stark. Either embrace the reality of aging gracefully with all its complexities, or fall into comedic vanities, desperately wishing you were still on that diet pill ride. At cocktail parties or Sunday brunches, conversation shifted decisively to tales of the good old days and the highly experimental side effects of the pills once revered. When food was free, weight was mandatory, and everyone casually deemed themselves colourful characters. You know the deal. It's like when everyone around you is selling wisdom on liberation, yet you're busy navigating new age self-help manuals that promise minimal effort for maximal enlightenment. And while you share this journey with your fellow sparkling friends, you can't help but wonder, you're still fabulous, right? You may be someone's twice-removed aunt, but one thing for sure, those big hair days are here to stay. And if anyone entertains a passage of judgment, simply let them know, age is merely the number of times I've danced through the taco aisle. So you embrace the absurd, juggle the ignorance, and allow yourself moments of belly laughter and airy connections, where aging isn't a decline, but an electric celebration of survival. There's a certain pride in claiming your place in the world, one oversized turtleneck sweater and sassy comeback at a time. Because in the end, let's face it, a tiny green pill might have promised full diets and delight, but it's the humour in our humanity that ultimately carries us through this maze of life. Living in the 70s, known as the decade to perpetually sprint across town, mothers had their prized pills and glittery dreams, but still carried their fair share of worry over rising bills and daily chaos. When some raged that they weren't feeling their pills anymore, the housewife lies had all but been forged anew. Picture it. Suburban streets lined with pastel houses and moms in bell-bottoms zooming around in station wagons that were more cavern than car. If you thought a busy day meant weekday rush hour, think again. The 70s mom was a whirlwind of errands, dietary decisions and self-imposed deadlines, where doing it all was the ultimate badge of honour. But let's take a fresh whiff of that iconic mall-bought perfume that no one can quite identify. Between juggling grocery shopping, carpooling the kids to soccer practice, and feeding the family without winding up in the local news for cooking crimes against humanity, mums were living on reserves of caffeine and diet pills. Why have one cup of coffee when you could have two? Became the mantra that fueled many a chaotic morning. The best part? It was less about actual breakfast and more about inhaling that strong cup of beans while simultaneously sifting through a pile of laundry that had multiplied in the corner like rabbits. As the day progressed, these multitasking marvels would attend PTA meetings, armed with a notepad and a snack of Celeste pizza, all while suppressing what remained of their sanity with the magical belief in the pills that promised vigour and sanity in a single swallow. Ever wonder how many school bake sales got sabotaged in the name of progress? No one will notice my gluten-free low-carb brownies covered in sugar-free frosting. They'll be fine, right? As they presented these alternative creations, their only measure of success would be whether the kids furrowed their brows in disgust or dug in with wild abandon. And let's not forget the quintessential suburban, whatever the heck that was, the conversation starter. Nothing ignites the spark of holy living like fellow mothers passionately discussing their trials with everything from invisible weight gain on trim your midsection in 5 minutes, pill regimes, to the latest grass-fed, hormone-free moonlit cow milk tragedy. Could anyone really call these gatherings a support group when it felt more like an Olympics for anxiety? The tea was super fresh though, delivered with sprightly voices and an undercurrent of competitive despair. Who cared if the tuna casserole was too salty? Clearly progress was being measured in the froth of our mochas and the number of calories those pills promised to melt away by sundown. As dusk fell, the pill-popping circus continued. Every mom attended her evening yoga class, still fueled by self-promise and pharmaceutical magic. Look at Betty over there. Hasn't missed a class all year because of that new brand. While making mental notes about her transformation, others were wondering if the only thing really transforming was Betty's mood each time she entered the gym. Tracking their failures became a unique evening pastime, with everyone ruminating over how many sit-ups could be accomplished between the cereal aisle detours or while waiting for that notoriously late school pickup. Let's talk about children, those delightful joy makers and energy drainers. Between running errands and slaving over dinner preparations, mothers had the modern-day dilemma of how to balance kid time with personal sanity. They tried to get creative. What better way to assemble a child's bedroom than with sleep-deprived fumbles and a hot glue gun? The 5-minute rule morphed into it's good as long as it keeps them quiet. Cue colourful bulletin boards and papier-mâché nightmares, because if we weren't challenging childhood creativity, were we even raising kids? When exhaustion hit like a freight train amidst the routine obligations, the cranky half-size human tanks hadn't even begun to make their demands known. "Can we have pizza?" rang through the house like a mantra, effectively drowning any notion of portion control while these overworked mums channeled their inner Treasure Island cookbook to grab creative meal choices straight out of the frozen food aisle. Why slave over a stove when you could defrost a veggie burger wrapped in little 70s designs? All things considered, it's important to recognise that beneath the seemingly sustainable chaos lay resilient women trying to make it all work. So, if you find yourself murmuring a quiet acknowledgement to those mums from the 70s, raise a toast to their celebrated chaos and relentless spirit. Because not only did they often explode in laughter when they celebrated the absurd, they also showed that no matter how many miracles that pill promised, life would always come down to messy, genuine moments sorted out over prepared or frozen meals. A much more nutritious recipe for life than anything those pills could ever serve. And finally, as the years go by, and those presses take a moment of silent reflection on life's beautiful nonsense, it's time to roll in a hilarious look at the chaos created. From regretful pill choices to glamorous disco floors, everyone's left with the notion that life might never be perfect, but laughter at least is always an option. Picture yourself at a retro-themed party as you sip from a fruit-infused punch bowl, surrounded by friends who all have one thing in common: a love for the absurdity that was the 70s. As you glance around, you can't help but chuckle at the sight of your friend Judith, wearing an outfit so vibrant it practically glows, an homage to the psychedelic patterns of the decade. As you absorb the ambience, memories of those fateful diet pills wash over you, giving rise to humorous stories that have morphed into legends. remember that time when Doris confidently marched into the neighbourhood party, boasting about how her miracle pills turned her from a size 12 to a 6 in just a month, while still managing to devour 2 pieces of cake? Ah, Doris, bless her well-intentioned heart. Yet, 2 hours into the party, she was the one lying on the floor, clutching her stomach as someone casually threw that infamous diet punch back at her, spitting it with equal parts laughter and concern. And what about the infamous diet pill overlaps, where friendships began to fracture over who found the ultimate weight loss solution first? As you reminisce, you roll your eyes at how competitive everyone became about their perfect bodies, sharing coded messages like, "Did you take the blue one or the pink one?" as if they were discussing top-secret classified intel. You chuckle at the times when potlucks descended into hilarious chaos of inappropriate diet foods, with one neighbour proudly presenting gluten-free, dairy-free, guilt-free, cream-filled cupcakes, which, let's be honest, tasted like they were made with regret sprinkled on top. Despite the struggle against societal expectations painted in bold strokes of glam, laughter often became the only remedy for the pain. Ah, yes. Just think about that endless quest for perfection, a quest that left numerous housewives gathered in circles at beauty salons, endlessly swapping dieting tales that escalated to the sort of absurdity you only see in a sitcom. You shared the roller coaster ride with your friend Claire, who decided that substituting vodka for water was a great way to sweat out every excess calorie, only to discover that, yes, hangovers do count as a form of workout. Your friend Linda even took it one step further, deciding that her ideal dinner-time yoga exercise would include the classic lotus pose directly next to her 2-week-old casserole, while eyeing a new diet smoothie recipe she claimed was all the rage. Spoiler alert, when she attempted to blend it all, an unfortunate mishap resulted in smoothie splatter of epic proportions, painting her kitchen a rather tragic shade of green while simultaneously declaring a culinary war on dietary vegetables. Reflecting on those moments becomes a reminder that the struggle for perfection was often just wrapped in shiny packaging and dusty pots of dreams. It's the kind of nostalgia that prompts happy tears and reflective chuckles. Who would have thought you'd find your grimace-inducing moments etched in the fabric of sitcom history? It highlights how the pressure to conform to an ideal body image was really a theatrical performance, where everyone donned their best showbiz faces, dancing under glittery disco balls, while internally grappling with the dastardly deeds of those over-the-counter pills. Now, as you sit back, take a sip of that punch and ponder the lessons that unfolded. It's oddly heartwarming how flawed those moments were. Life was, and still is, a tricky dance, rhythmically swinging between ridiculous expectations and the comforting embrace of understanding from friends, who might just be rolling their eyes and laughing at their own absurdities too. Amid all these reflections, isn't it funny how the most cherished memories aren't from the impressive physique you chased, but from friends gathered, laughter shared, and even the dreaded spill during weight loss experiments? In those moments, you realise you weren't just a participant in the decaying social experiment called 1970s dieting. No, you were a resilient contender, proving that life isn't about perfection. It's about finding humour in the weighty mess that life continues to bring, waiting for those fresh moments of laughter and camaraderie to bubble up like soda fizz, even as you slide into the next dance floor celebration at the local disco. What truly matters isn't the number on the scale, but the joy painted into the tapestry of experience shared with those you love. So, let's raise a glass of that retro punch to the imperfections. We wore our hearts on our sleeves and crazed diets in our systemic little bits of laughter,